Hi, hi everybody. I'm very happy to be here in presence of these amazing people, um, masters of his own work, and a light for me personally, and I dare to say for the world. So um, I hope you enjoy this interview as much as I did, and so looking forward for it. Very happy. Enjoy.
Hello, everybody. I'm Hannah, and I'm really pleased with the interview uh, between two great people, Pablo Veloso's work and Nikki Slade's work. It's been an amazing experience. They all have incredible work, so I hope you watch and rewatch the interview, and that you can feel the inspiration to connect to their work and to some of the practices that they suggest. Thank you very much for having listened. It's been an amazing way to link the inspiration of the people I work with and the inspiration my sister works with. So I think when we join forces together, magical things can happen. So thank you and enjoy.
Hello, everybody. We are in La Espada de Damocles, the spade, the sword of Damocles. I am Pablo Veloso, and here today I am with a very, very special person with which we will talk some interesting things. I am with Nikki Slade. She um, she do mantras, kirtan, and a very good work training people to lead this kirtan. Maybe the word kirtan, mantras, and some things like that are very strange or very, very rare. And this is why Nikki Slade will explain this for us. I wish that we can start this interview asking you to present yourself. Who is Nikki Slade? I'm very welcome.
Thank you so much, Pablo, and thank you everybody for taking time to listen. It's a great honor to be on your program. And yes, you're asking what is kirtan? Is that the first question?
The first question is who is Nikki Slade? This is
Who is
the
Nikki Slade?
important.
Okay, we'll keep the kirtan for a moment. So I'm from London, England, and I've had a very varied life. My early career was as an actor and a singer, and I went to drama school, and really that whole journey of going through theatre and performance. What I didn't realize was that I was really looking for myself in all these other characters.
Mhm.
And I had the very good fortune in one play I was in 1987 to be working with somebody who practiced a meditation path where chanting was a very big part of it. And it was through this wonderful actress that I came across the practice of chanting for the first time. And I really fell in love with it. And, I bought a cassette tape, as they had in those days in the 1980s,
Okay.
these old fashioned things. And as most actors listening will acknowledge, that when you act, you don't act all the time. There are many periods when you're out of work.
Yes.
So I was in my late 20s, and I would serve sandwiches in this delicatessen in between jobs. And I remember feeling very restless there, like, what is the meaning of my life? Yada, yada. All these questions were coming. And then I remembered I had this cassette tape. And I thought, I'm going to go home in my lunch hour around the corner from the store, and I'm going to listen to these mantras and sing along with them and see if it cheers me up. And basically, it cheered me up, and I had a spiritual experience through the mantras. But I could go into more, but maybe you have questions at this stage, Pablo.
And how it was that you hear the mantras, chant the mantras, what you did, what do you feel when you chant them?
What did I say that last question again? What did I do?
What did you feel when you chant?
Okay. Well, it was extraordinary, because the first day I started to feel a rising of energy inside my heart, and I started to feel wave upon wave of joy. And then I would go back into the delicatessen, making these sandwiches for customers and serving them. But I was like, it was as if I was in heaven doing it. So, would you like a sandwich? How are you? And people would look at me like I was literally from another planet. And I suppose in a way, I felt like I was in a new realm, a new abode, shall we say. So there was just so much joy in being alive in the mundane. Whereas before, I was in the same delicatessen thinking, what's wrong with my life? What am I doing? Where am I going? So anyway, the chanting started to really catch my heart. And I thought, I'm going to do it tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow as well. So every day I would chant a little. And then the Shakti, if you like, or the energy of the recitation of the mantra started to build in my being. And then one weekend, I went for a walk in the park, and I had the most explosive experience of oneness, of unity consciousness. Everybody I saw in the park was my very own self. Everyone was a mirror of the experience I was having in my heart. There was no separation at all. I felt I could talk to anybody, laugh with anybody. Everything was rising and falling at the same time. There was this complete flow and literally the most blissful waves. I was in bliss, with blissful waves flowing through my heart.
And this experience of a rising of Kundalini was permanent, or was an experience in this moment only?
This particular type of experience or experiences lasted for a whole month in this kind of intensity. There was one particular evening where I went with my partner at the time for dinner with friends, and I guess I have to ground this a bit for listeners because it can sound kind of crazy, but Kundalini, as you mentioned, is that coiled, dormant energy that is at the base of our spine. And when we chant or meditate, over time, it awakens. And if you like, it is our true nature unraveling, saying you're not, a bit like Sleeping Beauty, you're not bound in a sleepwalk. This is, you thought you were all the programming, you thought you were male, female, rich, poor, whatever your career is. And suddenly the revelation comes, you never were all of that. I mean, that may be what you do, that may be your gender while you're here. But your true nature is this beautiful connection with the consciousness, with the spirit within, which is supremely free. But of course, sorry, yeah.
What would you say that is the relation between chanting mantras and arising Kundalini? What is the element that relate both things?
Yeah. For me, I believe it is the vibration of the sound, the primordial sound, is that in the beginning, we were made of sound. We were made of vibration. We are made of sound. We are made of vibration. So if So when we start to calibrate, resonate, align with divine sound, there is an activation, a recognition that it's like you've tuned the instrument to the melody it was always destined to play. And then suddenly this exquisite music, this exquisite experience starts to come. And, you know, what I found that night was the Kundalini energy, which is like a coiled serpent, started to rise inside my being. And they say she's the greatest house cleaner. So she will clean all of the barriers, the blocks that we have inside to experiencing our true nature all the time. And until one is self-realized, you know, this is ongoing. So, you know, what happened to me was a blessing. It was a chance. It was a chance to wake up. You know, I'll say in a moment what I was waking up from, but yes, so there was this rising of energy, and it began to shoot out the top of my head. And I didn't know what was going on. You know, I opened the back door of my kitchen, and it was just like monumental storms, everything's, you know, it was like the weather was incredibly significant in that moment, you know.
But the place...
my cat was going crazy. My cat was walking around me as if, you know, because she and I were very connected during that experience. So this all sounds incredibly out there, which it kind of sounds out there, but it is a real experience. And more people worldwide are having spiritual emergency or Kundalini awakening at this time. And in my case, it really was a blessing, because I was looking down a dark hole of addiction, alcoholism. You know, I was really going down. And, you know, this practice, I can honestly say, brought me home. It's saved my life. You know, do I fluctuate today? Of course, you know, I'm not an enlightened being. But
Nikki,
yeah, go on.
There is a lot of people that practice meditation every day, and they try to arise their Kundalini, but they can't. And you in this particular moment of your life, with this addiction and this black hole that you mentioned, you awaken. Which is the factor, which is the element that makes that you particularly awake Kundalini?
So the word that's missing here is grace. When we are ready for this kind of experience, and there's no some person is better than the other, we all are deserving of the sunlight, right? But there are degrees of awakening. So, you know, some people, it's a very gentle, gradual thing that happens in meditation. Not everybody will have such, if you like, explosive experiences as I had. But maybe I needed those kind of explosive experiences. Otherwise, I wouldn't have believed there was any hope, you know? So I, you know, the grace of what? The inner teacher, you know, in Sanskrit, they say guru, gu being the dark, ru being the light, as you full well know. So when the inner teacher or the inner guru is ready to reveal more, when we're at the right place at the right time in the right practice, then something alchemical happens. And you know, this is literally everybody's birthright, you know. And then we have our journey. We have our, as they say in yoga, samskaras, our soul scars, our impressions, the things that are in the way of us staying in that state. So, you know, for me, that month where I was having beautiful experiences, sometimes quite challenging as well, but mainly blissful experiences of consciousness and revelations and prophecies and all of these things was a blessing, because however difficult life gets, and it gets very dark and very difficult sometimes, as we all know, that experience gives me a raft or a ship to keep going. You know, it keeps me afloat, because I have to remember that I'm not this bondage of life that we get veiled in at times, you know. So yeah.
But from that moment on,
Yes.
you must maintain this state, or it is a state that come and stay for itself.
Yeah. So the way it happens for me now, it's not explosive like that. I mean, nobody could live like that. For goodness sake, you know, it would be really, really difficult to kind of ground and do your daily business. So I like to stay very grounded these days. When I experience the bliss is when literally I'm chanting, and I have the very good fortune to hold space for others to chant, whether that be in a group situation or one-on-one. And then there is a grace again, where there is this flow of beautiful energy. And, you know, in that time, I remember again, I reconnect to that true nature, that true self within. And sometimes that takes me through the day, but it's much more subtle. It's more serendipity, you know, where it's suddenly I'm in the right place at the right time, the right person, and just coincidences that aren't coincidences. There's a lovely saying of, you know, that's God's way of remaining anonymous, these coincidences that happen. So what I experience by and large is a guided life, where I'm guided where to go, who to talk to, what to say. You know, sometimes I stray off, but you know, the Shakti pulls me into alignment pretty quickly, you know. So yes, so no, I'm not going around seeing visions, but what does happen is I get very, very strong guidance, like strong intuition. When I have a client in front of me, or a group, I get shown, you know, because not only do I lead chants, but I work with natural voice, bringing out people's expression, and you know, I get given pictures as to what to say, what to do, how to encourage them. And I know this is not from Nikki's personality. This is something that is just gifting through, you know.
And Nikki, you spoke about groups of people and your work with them. When you see these people, you see yourself like in a mirror, like in this Nikki of the past that awake her Kundalini. You feel that the people that you teach can awake their Kundalini the same way that you did?
Yeah. And I think the thing is, it's important that people are not attached as to whether their Kundalini is going to awaken. I think the way I set the scene in a kirtan class, kirtan meaning to sing the name of the divine or the higher power, as you understand it, is that it's a space where people can connect to their heart, where they can connect to their true nature, where they can find a space of inner stillness, of inner peace. And then anything else that follows is between them and the sacred connection that they uniquely have. But I would never create a session like, now we're going to awaken Kundalini. It's not like that, because it's Kundalini is like prasad. It's like a gift. It's like it comes when it's destined to come. So it's more like when I'm working with people, I work in a very grounded way, actually, because it's important that we're here in the world, maybe in the world and not of it, but definitely in the world. So, you know, as we were saying at the front end of the call before we came on air, the kind of people I work a lot with recovering addicts, for example. And when I'm chanting with them, my whole previous life experience comes into action, because I can sense and feel exactly where they are energetically. And I know that this practice has done what it has done for me. And so therefore, the intuition is very strong for these people, and they can hear me because of what I've experienced in my own journey. They're able to believe me that the mantras will work. They're open to it, and they have extraordinary experiences. Like the group I ran this Wednesday, 3 of the people, they said they saw this eye. They saw the same eye. All 3 of them. They never discussed anything before, but afterwards they said, "Oh my God!" and they saw the same thing. You know, they say that they feel connected for the first time ever since after using. They feel they get the meaning of everything. You know, that it's filling the hole inside the soul. So I'm really very passionate about the place of sound and mantra and devotional chanting in the path of addiction recovery. I really think it's going to be a breakthrough phenomena for the future. I mean, for me, I've had the pleasure of working with people in recovery for 20 odd years now, but I think doctors, psychiatrists, I think they will begin to really embrace this on the medical spectrum of the value that it is, that addiction is a sickness in the soul. It's a deep, deep darkness in the soul. And the only thing that will lift people out of it is that vibrational release, you know, to give them hope to see clearly, you know.
I trying to imagine all that people that came from a world of violence, world of a dark hole, like you said, and when you meet you, they found chant, they found mantras, they found Sanskrit, and a world of soul, a world of heart, no, the chanting of the heart, and how is this meeting of 2 worlds, the world of the soul, very clear, and the world of darkness, of addiction, for example.
Yeah, well, I mean, one story I write about in my book, as you recall, it was I used to take this work into a men's prison in London, and these were prisoners who had offended because of alcohol and drug abuse. I was able to take my work into the prison cell and chant with them after a lot of laughter and a lot of getting through all of the, you know, kind of reactiveness of the surreality of what we're going to be chanting, you know. But as soon as we started, they could viscerally feel it. And even though they had darkness around them at the beginning, because obviously they're suffering, the energy tangibly changed. And they said, "Oh my God, this is extraordinary. You know, we've been in prison all this time, and this is the freest we felt since we've been inside this place." And even freer than sometimes they'd felt outside the prison. And that's the irony, isn't it? That we're all in prison to a degree. You know, there are days where we might as well be in prison with the things that kind of hold us in the mind. So I guess, you know, when we awaken, we are not the state of violence. We're not the state of hedonism. We're not the state of greed. We're not any of these things, but all of these things arise the further away we get from the center of the space of the inner self. You know, we suffer the further away we travel from our true nature. And you know, we're in a dark time in the world. You know, people are very lost and they're desperately thirsting for the inner journey, for the inner life, as you know full well in your career. And I think, you know, there's an incredible film, if it hasn't been shown in Barcelona yet, called Mantra Movie. And it's by Georgia Weiss, and it captures the evolution of kirtan in the West. And it shows many different leaders who are making a difference, and it's impacting thousands. And one of the people in it says, I really do believe that we're in the golden age of kirtan right now, because the way I see it, and definitely the way I present kirtan, is this is a place where all religions, all faiths, all non-religions, all non-faiths can all meet together under one roof and chant. There is no dogma, and there is hope, and there is connection, and there is unity, despite the different beliefs as to what God is. You know, I don't mind whether for you it's Allah or Jesus or Buddha or a tree or just the vibration of everyone coming together. I think it's so important in this time that the more spaces there are where everyone can unite, rather than carving up the world in religions. You know, so I would love to see religious barriers come down. I respect everybody's religion. It's the barriers that divide us, and I think kirtan is the great hope. Actually,
this is a very beautiful thought. You think that this can work the same in the Latin or Spanish world, or only this wide open mind works very well in Anglo-Saxon world?
Oh gosh, I know it works in the Latin world. I had the best chant ever when I came to Mexico City. Hannah will remember because she was translating for me. It must have been in around 2014 maybe. And it was like a mind, body, spirit festival. We had maybe 300 people come, families, Mexican families, and they adored it. They were literally all over it like a rash. They were coming up after their gratitude, their joy. They felt it, you know. And then I did a workshop the following day, and this woman, she must have been in her 60s. She had tears in her eyes. And she didn't know how to thank. She was thanking me, but really she should have thanked herself. And she gave me this picture of, I think it was Jesus actually, but it was just her way of saying, thank you, I connected today. Thank you, thank you. So of course, you know, we're all part of the same divine race. You know, we're not Latin or Anglo or you know this, you know, but yes, that it can cut through cultural barriers too.
Well, there are some culture ways of think and understand the world, and in the Catholic world, maybe there are some barriers to foreign religions, like for example, Hinduism or Islam in this moment.
Sure. Yes, well, but you see, I'm very, very clear that with kirtan, I'm not practicing Hinduism or Islam, and I'm not rejecting Hinduism or Islam. You see, really, at the end of the day, when we chant, so for example, if you're chanting Om Namah Shivaya, you know, some will think of a blue god in the Hindu faith. This is not where the origins come from. the state of Shiva, what really is that but spaciousness, awareness, oneness? All right. Somebody creates a blue god, a man, a person created this murti, this, you know, just really to help people understand the multiplicity of what consciousness can do. But if you take all of that away and you want to call consciousness Allah, I don't care. You know, you want to call it Lord Shiva, you want to call it Buddha, you know, it's really sacred to the individual's own understanding. So I say, and I've had many Muslims, many Hindus, I've had Buddhists, I've had the whole lot in my groups. And I'm very, very clear that if the people bring their own understanding, and that if a word offends them, then they should replace, say, Om Namah Shivaya with, you know, Om Namah Allah, or, you know, Om Namah Christe, or, you know, I've chanted in churches where, just to be reverent to the church, I will bring in the word Christe, because I'm not seeing any separation. And I think it's so important that it's the way in which you set it up that's important, because, you know, people do get upset if you're not clear, or they think they're being led into a direction that is pulling them away from. Whereas where I'm coming from is that all religions, everyone coming together towards the one love, you know, respecting one another as to what they call that. But, you know, you can't chant 100 different names all at once, you know, but ultimately, you know, with the mantras like Kali Durga Namo Namah, Durga, what does she represent? Some people see her as this goddess on a tiger in the Hindu religion. Take all of that away. Durga is the fearless aspect of divine consciousness, period. You know, and is Allah fearless? Of course. Is Jesus fearless? Of course. Is Buddha fearless? So, you know, it's like whatever resonates deep in our own heart is what is important.
Very good, very good. I think in the people that they are seeing this and asking themselves how to practice this in the daily life. You say
Yes.
in your book, The Healing Power of Chanting, you say that we must chant every day these mantras. But if I am the people or the person that is hearing or seeing this interview, maybe I am asking myself, how can
Yes.
I chant? What can I chant in Sanskrit, in Latin, in Greek, in what?
Yes. Well, two answers here. Obviously, the language we chant in is Sanskrit, and, you know, you're the expert in this area, but, you know, Sanskrit has been preserved for sacred meditation connection for 1400 years now. And so there is a purity to the language. It's rather beautiful that it's turned from being an Indo-European, you know, colloquial language to one that's been literally preserved for connection. So it's a very universal language. In terms of how practically day to day, if you're living on a mountain somewhere and you're nowhere near anything, you know, but you have internet, you can download. There are many kirtan recordings. I have many, but there are people like Krishna Das, Diva Pramel, Sanatan Kaur, Jayu Tal, all these people who were in the Mantra movie.
Even Nina Hagen.
What?
Even Nina Hagen.
Yes, good. Yeah, Acha, okay. And then Wa, and, you know, there are some beautiful bhakti devotional leaders. In my book, The Healing Power of Chanting, I provide links where people can come on the journey with me through my journey to their journey, download the tracks as they go, the tracks that were influential for me in my journey. Or, you know, you can find me on Spotify, iTunes. And then if you don't get on well with my stuff, as I say, you know, find Krishna Das. Krishna Das is super popular. And like me, you know, I was in the delicatessen, then taking this cassette tape home. I had no group to go to, but I was just chanting along with this tape, you know.
Yes.
So this is how it starts. And there will be more and more kirtan groups springing up all over the world. I mean, I now run trainings. We were saying at the front end of the call, I train people to lead kirtan every autumn. It's a 200-hour foundation training. And then my graduate leaders, they go out into the world, and, you know, some of them are from France, America, you know, Germany. So it's starting to move into different countries, and then all up and down the United Kingdom.
But Nikki, all kind of people, or only, for example, yoga teachers or special people? All kind?
No. I mean, yes, there's been quite a few yoga teachers who come through, but I've had business people. I had a lord. He's a lord in Houses of Parliament and stuff. He came. He loved it. You know, I have, what can I say? Quite a few therapists come. I had a very well-known actor come. People, you know, people who have connected with the practice, they love it, and they want to share it somehow. They're inspired, you know. So this is who this training is for.
How it is this process that you teach? For example, if I go to learn with you, what I must expect?
Well, there are 5 elements that I've principally distinguished for leading. It's interesting because when you've been doing something for so many years, and then you have to melt it down into, well, what is it that is actually happening here, you know? So the first element is grounding, because of course, if you have a strong experience of Kundalini energy, you must be grounded. So we have a brilliant yoga teacher who offers every day the yoga for the grounding. Okay. And then the next thing is the vocal, the technique. So in other words, if you're going to chant for extended period and your voice is really closed, you're going to get a sore throat. So we do a lot on vocal technique in the training. The third element, which is the most important element, is the element of devotion, or what in Sanskrit is known as bhakti. So we work a lot in developing what your relationship is to bhakti, to what is it you're connecting with, because if you're going to share the practice with others, there's a transmission, you know. So this is a huge part of the training.
And for this, for this point, you add, for example, meditation or some sacred book, or like something like that.
Yes, meditation. People very much are asked to meditate, to commune, to listen. If some of the poet saints from India, you know, who were the originators actually of this practice, or the inspirers of the practice of kirtan, because the poet saints, they found consciousness within their own hearts. They awoke. They wrote exquisite poetry. You know, people like Kabir, Mirabai, Tukaram, Tulsidas. They went into the marketplaces and shared with the Shudras, the low castes, and the people became really inspired, because they were not allowed in the temples before this point because of their caste, which is terrible, really. But then they rejoiced that, oh my God, we don't need temples. We can find it all here. And then the next thing we know, they're singing for joy, maybe 2 or 3 words from the poems they've heard from the poet saints. And somebody gets out a pot and a pan and starts accompanying them. And then you have kirtan. It's the people's practice in response to the poet saints. So that's the grounding, the vocal technique, the devotion. And then there's a very big barrier that people have to get over, and that is the inner critic. Because it's all very well having an open voice, your body's open, you're devoted, and then suddenly you get in front of people and you're self-conscious and everything shuts down, and you don't want you up there. This is the problem.
Like the big brother.
Yeah, exactly. There's all this self-consciousness and separation, which is not what kirtan's about. So we work extensively with that. And then the final part is leadership, all the different elements of what it is to lead for a sangam, for a community. You know, lots of things which I probably won't give away online, but if people do the training, you know, there's a huge amount of knowledge and information that, and I have other practitioners as well, very knowledgeable yoga philosopher. We had Christopher Hirsch-Wallace for 3 of the trainings. We've had Gabriella Bernal. They're incredible, you know, Sanskrit philosophers. We have brilliant raga, the devotional scale teacher. We have tabla teacher. Many elements, you know, to make Kundalini expert, you know.
What happened with the people that start to sing, for example, with an harmonium like you, and get nervous because of the people that are saying them, or because of this self observation? What they can do? Continue with this practice until they reach this point of attunement, no? With the self, or what?
Yes, well, you know, what I do in the training is I have many techniques which I share for working with the inner critic. So I probably won't share them all online, but just to say there is a strong process within the training. You're right, you know, the inner critic, the judge that comes in and says, who are you to be doing this? You know, you're a fraud. You shouldn't be up here. They don't like you, or that person who's yawning in the front is bored. Or they're not connecting with you. You know.
I say you are not worthy of this.
You're not worthy, exactly.
For example,
so on the training, people get to face their inner critic. It's probably the most uncomfortable part of the training, but it's probably one of the most valuable elements, because people get past the inner critic on the training, and it really shows, because they're freed up once they get out there in public. They don't have some of those barriers that people who haven't gone through that intensity have.
And Nikki, it is important to have a musical instrument like harmonium or tabla or djembe, like you.
Yeah. So I basically, yes, they learn to play harmonium. They learn to play drones and basic notation. So it's very foundational, but they are given enough that they can go out and lead something with the harmonium, rather than thinking, oh my God, I have to be as good as a pianist, you know, to play this thing, you know, I'm frustrated, you know. So they're given confidence to be able to play simply enough to be able to begin to share the practice.
You have a white harmonium, very beautiful, white.
Oh, I love my white harmonium. I've always had white ones, and now people are starting to copy me because they're so beautiful.
There is in Argentina, there was a very good player of bandoneon, an instrument like the harmonium, and he was known for the people, to the people, because he have a white bandoneon, like you, that you have a white harmonium.
Oh, yeah, there's just something about them. I mean, my white harmonium, if you look at the front picture you put of me on YouTube, is looking less white. There's a very faded bit at the top, because it's about 20 years old.
Yes.
And although I've got a new one that looks very much more white, it doesn't have the soul of the one that I've played all this time, you know.
The magic is in this, in the white.
Yes.
And for example, you can show us in this moment a short um, mantra or something that you can sing for us for the understanding for that we can see exactly what are you talking about.
Yes, I can
If you want,
chant a few.
if you want.
All right. Well, I'll chant a couple of rounds of Om Namah Shivaya, which means I merge with or I honor my own true self. So, okay, here we go. I'll do a little gong to start with.
Thank you. Thank you for this.
I have to deal with my inner critic now, Pablo. Okay. Om Namah Shivaya. 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 Om Namah Shivaya.
Very beautiful, Nikki. Very beautiful. You say that we must chant loudly like you every day, loudly with the voice expressing loudly.
Yeah. Well, you know, must maybe is too strong, but if you do chant every day, then the guarantee is that you'll start to connect more with your heart, that your vibration will lift, you will begin to strengthen your intuition, see more clearly, just generally more joy. In terms of on your own, yes, you can chant along with a recording or chant a cappella as I just did.
Mhm.
And if you can find a local group, if Barcelona, for example, I'm sure must have some kirtan groups, so you can Google it, see what's going on in your in your area. Or you can sometimes people are doing like Illumina. They're a beautiful duo that I know in England. They do Facebook Live chanting. So there are people who are beginning to do more online. So this is also a possibility.
And if we do this chanting at home, the time is 15 minutes, 13 minutes, an hour.
Yeah. So, well, my classes are an hour and a quarter. And usually we do 3 chants of around 20 minutes or so in length. Sometimes people love to chant the same mantra for an hour, and there is such a thing as a chanting sapta, which is like an all-night event where the chanting doesn't stop. You can come and go, but different leaders go on throughout the night. So it's like a havan, they call it in India. The kind of fire builds. In fact, in London, we have an event on the 31st of May of over 20 chant leaders chanting in aid of the homeless people. So all the tickets go towards homeless. We're going to have beautiful food as well. But the people will come, they'll chant for an hour, go and eat, then they come back. But the energy is always building. It's such a wonderful experience.
And I know that you work with businessmen, and I wonder how these people that came from a different way of life, like money, stress, and all these things, how they can connect with this kind of mantras or meditation ways of
Yeah. So
living.
I've worked with many different companies, you know, Deutsche Bank, Cisco, you know, these kind of very familiar brands and things. But at the end of the day, underneath all the suited and booted, they say in London, is a soul, you know. And I'll never forget, I once led in a conference. It was mainly men. And at first, you know, we did a lot of quite raw sounds and we had drums going. And then I just had this real pull to do something gentle with them. And I told them to come and sit round the stage. And one by one, they came, and I asked them to put their hands on their heart. And I said, you know, we're going to chant together a chant to the Divine Mother. Now, this was a real risk. You know, we're talking back in 2002 or something like this, or 2001. It was like really weird to do that. but I was just following the guidance. And
Yes.
so the chant was Jaya Jaya Devi Mata, victory to the goddess mother, the divine principle, the divine feminine.
Yes.
And you know, I basically said, I think the company was called Ecolab or something, and I said, you know, I'm sure you would agree that the principle behind your company in truth is the heart. And where Ecolab is, that's where the heart is. And they were all like, and they were nodding. And then I started to lead this chant, which was Jaya Jaya Devi Mata Namaha Jaya Jaya Devi Mata Namaha. Then I said it in English. How I love you, dearest mother, with all my heart. How I love you, dearest mother, with all my heart. I looked around at these men, and they turned from men to little boys.
Yeah.
And they had tears rolling down their faces. And it was the most special moment, actually, of my entire journey in working with business people, because it's just, we just all want to go home. We all want to go home in the heart. And, you know, it's just the way you set it up, really. I think that's the important thing.
I think that you allow them to reach this state. You are like an angel or like a mother that meet these boys again, and they can down from this state of the tough guy, you know, the man.
Yes.
No?
And you know, it was so interesting because before we chanted, there was a bit of a restlessness in the room, but as soon as we finished, they did not want to leave the room. And it was lunchtime. You know how normally, you know, people are looking at their watches, they can't wait to go and get a drink or whatever it is. Yeah.
Very, very amazing. And what we can expect from your book, the healing power of chanting. What can we find in
so
this
so the reason I wrote this book, in fact, the universe prompted me to write it 4 times for people I respect. They said, Nikki, you need to write a book. But this book is for people who are seeking something, seeking connection, and they feel that perhaps maybe the circumstances of their life have gotten too dark or difficult, or, so it's designed through sharing candidly and honestly my own journey. It's designed to give people hope and accessibility and a practical way into commencing their own chanting journey. So hence the download links, so that rather than just hearing my journey, they can go, well, what is this chant she was talking about in this chapter? And then they go bing, and the chant downloads and they chant too. So they're starting their journey with the mantras as the book goes along.
Then you have a feedback from your readers.
Very much so, yeah. Every day, not every day, but every week, I get somebody saying, oh, I read your book. And it's funny, I've never formally pushed it, but it has a life of its own, that book. It goes word of mouth, word of mouth. It's getting around the world now. But I'm lucky. I work in a very lovely yoga studio in London called Tri Yoga. It has many different branches, but I'm very blessed that my book is available there in all those studios. And it's just going like wildfire. People are just buying it and reading it, and and they come, some of them come up in tears and they say, oh my God, I was so touched by some of the things in your book, because they're seeing themselves and they're also seeing hope. And so that's why I wrote it, actually, as a contribution and as maybe an introduction, not only to this practice, but to the possibility of transformation through the practice,
And where we can find it to buy the book? In Amazon?
Yes, it is on Amazon. It is on Amazon, yeah. You can also order it through my website, which is nikkislade.com. I imagine you'll put all the details up with you afterwards, but anyway, it's NIKKISLADE, nikkislade.com. You can get access to my book, my recordings, information of trainings that are coming up, and so on and so forth.
You're giving all the time these workshops to the training of leading kirtan all the time?
Yes, that happens in the autumn. There are some spaces left if people from overseas want to apply. It runs from the second week of September to the end of the third week of November. It's an intensive. It's a intensive period. It's 200 hours, and so if you are coming from abroad during the modules, you need to stay in London. I have tasters, so there is a retreat coming up June 12th to 14th, where people can come for the weekend and try out some of the work before applying for the training.
But these 2,200 hours are distributed, I don't know how to say, in how many days?
Okay, it's 22 days. So the way it works is there's 6 days, second week of September, 6 days, beginning of October, and then we do Fridays and Saturdays in between. And so the modules are the teaching elements, and then the Fridays and the Saturdays are the integration, the practice, getting it into the system, absorbing what you've learned.
Also, you have a YouTube channel where there are a testimonial of your...
Yes, indeed. If you go on to my website to learn to lead Kirtan Foundation training, there are testimonials from almost all my students from previous years, and they speak for themselves, because I can talk about it forever, but they're really lit up by what they've experienced, because it really is, it's like a shamanic journey as much as anything else,
You are doing a very good job. I didn't know I didn't know that that in somewhere in the world was a person that teach how to lead kirtan. This is a discovery for me. I didn't know that.
I was definitely the first person in the UK to do this, to get an accredited training. I'm not sure there are others in Europe. I may be wrong. I think you can. There's something in the United States, but yes, it is a pioneering thing that I've put together.
Yes, I think so. Well, I want to thank you very, very much for this talk. I apologize for my poor English, but well, this is what it is.
Oh no, Pablo, it's been an absolute pleasure, and I really hope that something I've said will reach somebody and make a difference. And your English was beautiful. I understood you perfectly, and the main thing is the energy was very good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Namaste, as they say.